Welcome to the In Shape Fitness Show. I am Coach Kim, and today's podcast is called What's on Your Bucket List? I talk a lot to clients in New York City, where I do most of my exercise work, about things on their bucket list, because everyone should have a little bit of a bucket list. And if a person is hiring a trainer to come to their home to get fit for a particular reason, most often it is about simple stuff like losing weight and feeling better and maybe getting off of a medication or something like that. But we do try to connect to longer term, more interesting goals, because let's face it, you're much more apt to work towards something that excites you, that really kind of revs you up on the inside, than the idea of just, losing a couple of pounds, though obviously that's important, or getting off of a medication, which obviously is important. At the end of the day, especially for people that are getting a little bit older, into the middle age years and beyond, there are so many variations on the theme of getting older in terms of watching your body start to decay, or really taking good care of yourself for the first time in your life, potentially being able to do something that makes that prominent position of the most bucket listed items of all time. So I was doing some research as I was preparing for this podcast today, and I think it's kind of interesting. As you probably know, I am a trainer, a running coach rather, for the New York City Marathon every year. And every year we start training new runners. Typically these are novice runners that I run with, training right after Memorial Day. So this is coming up actually for me. And almost every single year I talk to someone in the first couple of practices that has either retired or is about to retire, and their bucket list item is to run a marathon. And confirming the significance of that statement, that idea, I found today two lists that both put run a marathon as one of the top 3 bucket list items of all time. Now, scientific data collection, who knows? Bucket lists are, probably not a lot of people going around trying to sort of test those theories and figure out what the most accurate list priorities are, or sequential order is. But it is right there alongside running a marathon is something like going on African safari, walking along the Great Wall of China, skydiving, snorkeling the Great Barrier Reef. These are all items that regularly appear on people's bucket lists. None of the things, aside from running a marathon, I've actually done. It's interesting, but all of these things I would like to do. And aside from the fact that I have a young daughter, and so my life for the last several years has been relatively sort of sequestered as far as, financial resources and time spent being a responsible parent. All of those things I would like to do as I get older and start sort of thinking about the later years of my life. So staying in shape in order to staying physically capable of doing those kinds of things is at the top of my list. So the problem or the disconnect that I want to talk to you about today is looking at a bucket list and then figuring out from that bucket list item what steps are necessary to ensure, aside from money and time, coming troubles in countries or whatever, what things that physically you need to be able to do in order to achieve, to knock that thing off of your bucket list, or to check it off of your bucket list. And for running a marathon, or snorkeling potentially, or even really walking along the Great Wall of China, because there are so many stairs. It's a tough journey to make. Those are all physically taxing experiences. How do you best prepare yourself every day to ensure that you are able to conduct the larger, more interesting experiences in your life? And that's where our modern fitness regimen, sort of our culture of consumer fitness, goes just way wrong, because we're hamsters on a wheel, literally and figuratively. Literally in the sense that if you're on a treadmill, you're not going anywhere. You're just running. I have this whole thing. Obviously, I've talked about this so much. If you've been listening to my podcast here in the last few months, you know I have written a book called Darwin on the Treadmill. I cannot stand treadmills. I absolutely cannot stand the idea of a treadmill. And really, I can't stand gyms either. But I am really frustrated with I get frustrated with the notion that the doctors in our country, that experts, purported experts, say that going to the gym a couple times a week is the prescription for, the healthy lifestyle that is just waiting for you at the end of those gym trips. It's like you swipe your membership card, and on the way out in a basket, you get to pick a healthy lifestyle out of the basket, just because you showed up and you put your time in. You're deserving of living, a physical life that is healthy, if you will. I've got my air quotes up right now, and that just simply isn't the case. Number one, a lot of people can't afford, not just in terms of the cost of the gym membership itself, but as far as the time to leave life, depart from your regular life, travel to a gym facility, swipe the membership card, get the good workout in, and then leave, go back to regular life, and resume without consequences that negate the physical benefits of the experience itself, of the workout itself. It's a trade-off. And so the motivation for most people is pretty clear. Give up the workout because you gotta do these other things. You have to make sure food is on the table in your house. You have to make sure that the laundry is done, and that homework is done, and that your project that's due the next day is complete and ready for your boss to look at or whatever. The idea that it's a luxury, really, the idea of being able to depart your life and sort of exit into a consumer experience in a studio, a gym, a boot camp class, even a marathon training run, is fraught with all kinds of roadblocks for everyday people and for hardworking, highly educated executives. They just have a really hard time with the, those trade-offs, because the motivation is to achieve in life in terms of your, other responsibilities. And so the physical part of your life is on the back burner until it's forced to be in your face when your doctor tells you you have high blood pressure, when your doctor tells you you're developing diabetes, you're pre-diabetic, or when the scale tells you you're now 20, 30 pounds overweight, etc. Or maybe when you're ready, you've done everything you need to do in your life to take that trip to the Great Wall of China, but it's so hard for you because your body's not ready, your body's not able to ascend and descend dozens and dozens of flights of stairs, that it's onerous and not appealing to you any longer as something that you want to do. Or you just mark the marathon off of your bucket list because it's not possible for you to run a marathon. These are all questions that have an answer. That it's unfortunate that the answer is something most people just don't want to hear. And that is that you have to take care of your body every day. It's what we talk about, what I talk about with my clients, what I write about in my book. There are ways to stimulate the soft tissues in your body every day without the gym experience, whether it's first thing in the morning, which is what I preach. I do it myself, and it is what I tell every single person that I know. Wake up, roll out of bed, have a sip of water, turn on the coffee, turn on the news or music, and then find a spot in your living room. I do it in my pajamas so that nothing else stands in the way, because I feel like once I get my clothes on, my brain is racing to the next or first thing on my list. But in my PJs, before my coffee, I am able to dedicate a period of time. It's not the same amount of time every single day, but it is at minimum 5 or 6 minutes, up to about 15 or 20 minutes of time to stretch, elevate my heart rate, and get a little bit of strength work, mostly core strength work, into my day. So many variations on this theme, and that the other channel that I do, the other podcast series that I have called AM Muscle Maintenance, mostly are short workouts that I do every week that are typically around 20, 21 minutes, and they are focused on those kinds of routines. Now, some people are such bad sleepers. They hate the idea of the morning routine and they just can't do it. So then, my recommendation from there is to just pick a time when you can do it every day and do it every day. But you really do need to do it every day. You brush your teeth every day. You put your clothes on every day. You wash your body, hopefully, every day. You make your bed. You do things every day. This is something you should do every single day. And it has the benefit, it will pay off. The dividends are possible to feel and see if you make the time to take care of yourself every single day. I have a chapter that I'm working on right now. I'll tell you a little bit about the expansion of a chapter actually I'm working on right now through this second sort of edit of my book that I'm really hoping will be out sometime this year. It's called Darwin on the Treadmill. As you know, I've talked about it already today. I talk about it pretty much all the time now because I'm so excited. I love pulling history into things that I'm working on. And I do it in all different parts of my life. In fitness, I have found that one of the most interesting things about the type of fitness that I like, which is just moving the body, going out into the park. I live near Central Park in New York City, and I am in the park as many days a week as I possibly can, mostly with my daughter, climbing trees. And I'm almost 50 years old, but being able to still climb a tree, being able to climb up the rocks, go up and down the little hills. And if you think New York City is not hilly, please come visit the northern part of Central Park so that you can get it, see it, feel it firsthand. It is so fun. There are waterfalls and rocks all over the place, all these really great cliffs to get really beautiful views of the city, especially in the northern part of Central Park. And these are the types of fitness sort of recreational experiences that I find profoundly interesting, worth it in terms of my appreciation for just being alive. And it's only possible that I can do these types of things because I take care of my body every day. So I'm working on this chapter about one of the functional priorities that I name. So the key to the sort of reason I wrote the book is to define the 8 functional priorities, the 8 capabilities that correspond to being able to enjoy your life as you get older without drugs, without medical intervention, and with the energy that you need in order to have these enjoyments later in life. One of those 8 is being able to lie down and sit up properly, easily, and successfully. Falling down as you move around your life, whether you're falling down because you're losing your balance, or in the case of this test that I actually talked about in the most recent podcast, is a group of scientists at Birmingham, I think the University of Birmingham, that have talked about the connection, the correlation between your ability to lie down or sit down, at least on the floor, and be able to get up onto your feet without putting your hands on the floor. And now that doesn't seem like it should be all that tricky. And it really shouldn't be all that tricky. But as you get older, the flexibility in your hips, the strength in your butt and your quads and your hamstrings, all taxed a significant degree when you are sitting down on the floor and you need to stand up. However, lying down to sitting up is another functional part that is really tricky for people. Now, you don't spend a lot of time lying down as probably a working middle-aged adult, but being able to do this, to complete this execute this move, is critical in terms of not necessarily the flatness of your tummy, but in terms of the connection that your head and your upper spine, your neck, has with the hips and the function of your legs. So, in this chapter, I have been writing a lot about the 5 Tibetans, and the 5 Tibetan exercises are 5 Tibetan rites, are a component of fitness that I very much appreciate. In fact, I do some of them myself every single day as well. But I also have, a different perspective on not a very Eastern sort of perspective and appreciation for the spiritual side of things like yoga and the disciplines that are related to yoga practice and the meditative side of exercise. But the 5 Tibetans, particularly 2 of the 5 Tibetans, have made a really interesting difference in my own ability to navigate through my physical life. And one of the main reasons is that a couple of years ago, I guess really it's been a bit longer than that. My daughter's almost 10 years old. So it was when my kid was really, really young. I was still carrying her around a lot, probably right before she started going to school. And my back, my head, my neck, my back, even though I was pretty fit, I had a lot of pain. And I was in pain when I woke up. I was in pain at the end of the day. And I began to do these exercises that related to what I'm talking about now, this connection between the upper part of your spine, your neck, and its insertion into your skull, and then to the lower part of your back, the functional sort of mobility part of your body, which is mostly for humans because we're we need to be able to walk in order to move around. Our mobility is such an important part of our independence and part of our lives, and unfortunately, because of poor posture, because of, in the case of parenting and carrying kids around, because of that as well, we end up with all of this back pain. And so the second and third, is that right? The second and the third of the 5 Tibetan rites have been 2 exercises that I have learned to appreciate to such a degree. So the 5 Tibetans, and I again just finished writing about this. I can't wait for you to get to read it. But when you do take a look, or if you want, go Google 5 Tibetans and you can learn about the goofy story that sort of makes this whole concept somewhat mysterious and perhaps maybe not even really true. But the 5 moves themselves are to spin around 21 times. Everything is done maximum to 21 times. And you spin around clockwise with your arms out to the sides, like a little kid, 21 times. That's the first one. So that's not really connected to what I'm talking about here, but that's actually a really fun thing to do. And related to bucket list items, if you do have kids or you have grandkids and they, for example, like going to the playground and getting on anything that goes around in a circle, or at an amusement park, the teacups ride, or, even roller coaster rides that have circular movement. If you have had a sense that maybe you're not able to do those rides anymore because you're getting older, it's because probably that your vestibular system is degrading, it's decayed and lying dormant, and the spinning around slowly, and you do it up to 21 times. So it's not necessary for you to do 21, but try one or two of them and see if you get dizzy. The dizziness abates quickly, but it does help to redevelop, sustain your vestibular system. So that I find super fascinating. But I do want to get to that second and third one because I want to get you out of here before the 30-minute mark is up. Are two exercises that develop really excellent strength in the head and the neck. And when your head is in the right place, and when your neck is strong, and when your chest is open and your back is not hurting, you feel better about the way that you present yourself, and you operate better in terms of your respiration, in terms of your digestion, and in terms of your ability to stay energized and be able to do things in your day. The move itself is really very simple. You lie down on the floor. You look up at the ceiling. Your legs are straight. Your arms are beside your body with your palms facing the floor. And then you, at the same time, you lift your head and tuck your chin to your chest. And then at the same time, you lift your legs, keeping them straight through the hip flexors. You lift your legs. And then you return to the starting position with complete control. Inhale as you lift. Exhale as you lower back down. Pretty simple, right? Again, try a couple. And try them until you get to 21. That's the number that I do every morning. Now, the modification, if your lower back is not developed or you feel like it might be in pain by doing this exercise, bend one knee and just try with one leg at a time. That is a good way to start. And again, the purpose is to, according to the 5 Tibetans, and again, this is not a sort of modality of fitness that I get behind on a lot of like practical levels. I'm just do it because it makes sense in terms of the distribution of fluids and energy through your body, but chakras and various sort of components of the mystery of Eastern exercise and practices related to the 5 Tibetans like yoga are foreign. I like to keep them at arm's length in terms of the work that I do. But the use of the body within this exercise is always fascinating to me. Not to mention, as I said before, in terms of the ability for you to keep your shoulders back because your arms are down, so your shoulders are touching the floor. And as you lift your head and tuck your chin to your chest, you're stimulating the part of your throat that, believe it or not, needs exercise. Now, people got away from doing crunches for a long time because of back pain and because there isn't a lot that you can do to work the tummy muscles when, there are so many other ways to melt fat and look better. So the idea of crunches kind of, degraded over time over the last probably couple of decades even. But that throat area, your thyroid is in there, so the stimulation of the soft tissues that are around your esophagus, your windpipe, And then, of course, the glands there are, has a lot of benefit as well. So the second exercise, or the third in the series, has another chin tuck. There are, in fact, a lot of chin tucks with the 5 Tibetans, demonstrating the supposed 2,500 year knowledge that the Tibetan monasteries have had with respect to the hormonal balances within the body and the energy sources in relation to those hormonal balances, and how you maintain the stability and the vitality of your life by moving the body in certain ways. So the next thing that you do, related to what we just did on the floor, is to lift your body up onto your knees. And then you place your hands on your body, start by putting them on your butt, and then lower them a little bit so that your hands are resting at the sort of connection between the back of the leg and the butt. And so your chest is open again. It's forcing your chest to be open again, right? And then you tuck your chin to your chest again. So you're sitting up real high on your knees, and then you tuck your chin to your chest, and then look back, up and back, arching your back a little bit, looking at your ceiling and maybe even beyond, and then returning back to that chin tuck. So that, again, reinforces basically the same motion of the head, but with static, elongated hip flexors and a little bit of a back arch added in. Now, back to the bucket list for a second. Remember, the things on your bucket list, it could also have stuff on your bucket list like writing a novel or running for political office or whatever. But although running for political office, I would argue, perhaps has a real physical connection to it as well. So being fit in terms of being able to run for political office is something that I always look for in a candidate. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're going back to the bucket list, the things that you really like to do in your life that are inspiring to you, that will provide you with some guidance for the way that you want to live as you get older. Remember that you should have that bucket list, first of all. And then realize that the bucket list doesn't mean that you just go out and do those things. The bucket list is there for you to visualize some things that will, provide a sort of a mile marker for your life, for the enjoyment, achievement, and appreciation of life itself. And then what are the physical things that you have to be able to do in order to take advantage of that bucket list item and be able to see it through to its fullest potential? If running a marathon is on your bucket list, there are things that you have to do in order for that bucket list item to be checked off and for you to feel really, really good about it. If snorkeling at the Great Barrier Reef is something that you want to do, there are things that you can do to prepare your body so that you can appreciate that activity when you get to the point to do it. Same with any other bucket list item. Bucket lists are really, really, really good idea to have. And I hope that you've enjoyed this podcast. I want to let you go. Take a couple of deep breaths. We didn't do a postural systems check at the beginning of this podcast, which is something I actually normally do, regardless of whether it's a workout or just a little chit chat. But take a couple of deep breaths here, inhaling deeply through your nose. Remember that when you inhale through your mouth breathing is sort of a survival tactic for the more primitive part of the neuromuscular system. And so you emit hormones and your heart rate elevates by virtue of the mouth breathing that a lot of people tend to do because it's a conscious effort to inhale deeply through your nose and filtering all of that air, which is really beneficial. It takes a little more effort. It activates more of the body. So try that as you finish up here. Have a great rest of the day. I will be back next week with another podcast at the In Shape Fitness Show. And don't forget to listen in for another Daily 21 on AM Muscle Maintenance next week as well.